Hello and happy Sunday.
Very happy Sunday to everyone.
One and all.
One and all.
God bless you all. This is the Two Mats podcast brought to you by the subscribers of the New European. And if you're not a subscriber to the New European, why not?
Why not?
There's your
Pourquoi
question.
pas?
Yeah. First question from Anne Shilcock. Why is Rory Stewart being ridiculed by media voices, you guys included, for his belief that Kamala Harris would win? He's a guy known for his decency, humanity, honesty, and trust in democracy, and that he optimistically believed these values would win her the election, and the subsequent derision for believing they would prevail just shows how hopelessly they have been trashed, says Anne Shilcock. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I like Rory, but hope is not a strategy. I mean, he was very, very sure that Kamala was going to win, and checks notes, she didn't. Yeah, right.
Also, I don't think we've ridiculed him.
No,
I just think
no.
Mildly,
others have.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
for my part, not that the great Rory Stewart, who I believe has a podcast which might be marginally more successful even than the Two Mats. Not that he would care what I think, but I have admonished the level of hand-wringing and self-flagellation.
Yes, but not but at him, aiming at him personally. I mean, look, it's not about any one pundit, and Rory is included in that.
Yeah,
and
also,
we love all those things,
yeah,
like decency, humanity, honesty, and trust in democracy. But it would be a triumph of hope over experience to suggest that it's been a good couple of weeks for them.
We're definitely pro-humanity. If that's in question,
100%.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Yeah, and we did want Kamala to win, but she didn't. And
but
we did have a feeling that she might not.
And she really didn't, And
to that degree, we were right and he was wrong.
Yeah, so. and I don't think, and I'm sorry, Anne, about this, but I actually don't think the feelings of UK pundits are the main issue at the moment.
Don't you? I feel like ours ought to be central.
Yeah, I exclude us.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on before we disappear any further up our own rectums.
And let's face it, we're already a long way up. Does Elon Musk's support of Trump and his expected influence in government demand a further boycott of X? Lewis in France. What do you reckon, Matt?
Well, so very, very timely question, this.
Very contemporary,
and
very timely.
The reason it's timely for me is that I saw on Wednesday, I want to say, maybe Thursday, I saw The Guardian announcing in a very pontificately nature that they were deciding to absent themselves from X from now on.
They clutched their pearls.
They did clutch their. It was all very pearl clutching.
Vapors.
And I thought this is the Guardian, the same Guardian only a week ago was trumpeting how they were up for the fight. They were going to hold Trump to
hold my beer because I'm coming
that's
for
it,
Trump.
And by the way, give us some money so we can go and fight Trump wherever he raises his head. And I thought, what a gang of wimps. And so we put out our announcement saying, well, we're very much staying on X.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Musk has absolutely destroyed it. Yes, I think it's a complete cesspit with some of the worst people I know doing very well on it, which is always a bad sign. But equally, if someone's spouting shit in a public forum, I'm going to be, and I hear it, and I'm going to be the first guy to shout back at them,
Yes,
and whether it's a pub or it's X, I'll be there.
I mean, I have to say, and this is ultra unfashionable view, but I find X very useful. And I mean, and useful is the word, right? I don't find it consoling or emotionally supportive, or it's not an emotional support animal or anything like that. But precisely because we do live in crazy times, X is a very useful form of opposition research, and a lot of journalists are still on it, and it often is the first to notify you of a breaking story. So, you can block people, you can mute people, you don't have to be exposed for the full horror. But honestly, this lot, the populist right, are not going to be defeated by retreating to safe spaces. I mean, no one has to go on X.
Exactly.
It's a free country. But Elon Musk and Donald Trump are not going to stop being what they are if people, say we don't like X, it's too nasty.
And by the way, this theory that, you're putting money in Elon Musk's pocket by being on X, the absolute reverse is true.
It would appear so.
Since he bought it in 2022, it's lost 75% of its value. So it's cost him $31 billion, right, since he bought it. And it's going down, down, down.
He needs all those federal contracts
from
Trump.
The longer it goes on, the more it costs him. So don't worry about that.
No,
Staying on X
I
costs
really wouldn't worry.
Musk money. Okay.
No.
Thank you, though, Lewis, for your question. We understand what's behind it. From Caroline Osborne, it's not right to say the majority of Americans are behind Trump. 50.7% voted for him, but the other half... Well, hang on, Caroline. 50.7% last time I looked is a majority. Anyway, let's get to the rest of the question. So expect there to be unrest if he executes some of his more extreme plans. 52% voted for Brexit, and you can't say most British people are behind it. Let's keep some perspective on the American people. Many of those who voted for him held their noses.
Well, okay, where to start, really?
Well, can we start with saying the obvious thing that you can say the majority of Americans
I think
voted for him?
Okay, this is one of the copium, as it's now called, mechanisms is, and I remember this from the 80s with Thatcher, which is you say, but from the total eligible number of voters, he didn't win an absolute majority or something like that, right? But the fact is, he absolutely did beat Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah, and he won the popular vote.
And he won the popular vote, and he won the Senate, and he won Congress, right? Yeah. So, and also, you can't go into an election, as we did, saying democracy's on the ballot, right?
Yeah.
And then when democracy delivers what you don't like, say, we didn't mean that.
Yeah.
That's what Trump's lot do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, and also held their noses. Well,
everyone holds your nose.
I'm sure lots of Kamala Harris's voters, held their noses. I mean, a lot of people who disagreed with her on Gaza, for example, or felt that her economic offer wasn't big enough, held their noses and voted. And I just generally think that this, and this is not welcome, I know, but it's the truth. This is not a moment to forage through the statistics looking for phony consolation.
Right.
What has just happened in America, a convicted felon, twice impeached, found liable by jury for sexual assault, awaiting trial for insurrection, which won't now happen, was just returned to the presidency with a trifecta: White House, Congress, Senate.
Yeah.
We have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult.
I'd also say, the fact that so many people held their noses is almost more troubling than if it was the other way around.
Yes.
It's the fact that so many looked at what the Democrats had on offer and said, "Oh no, I can't. I'm not going to. I'm going to see the other guy." So. And also, the thing about 52% voted for Brexit and you can't say most British people are behind it. Well, that's absolutely true, but that's within the time span of, where are we now? 8 years later.
8 years, yeah.
Right. And I'm sure in 8 years' time, people, I'm absolutely confident of this.
No question.
A lot of people will be looking back at this second Trump presidency thinking, my God, we wish that never happened.
Yeah. But right now,
the majority of Americans are behind him.
They are. And
that's just a fact.
That's just one of those pesky facts that we're supposed to be in favor of. We like facts, not post-truth. And I think that I've noticed this in a lot of the sort of American pro-Democrat podcast land. There's been a lot of kind of, let's get this in perspective. It wasn't that bad. It really was.
It was. I remember Andrew Neil, the Times radio broadcaster, for It Is He, saying, this started as a dead heat and it's got even closer, which I thought, that's a great line. But he was just as wrong as Rory Stewart was. It was nowhere near a dead heat. It was an absolute considerable vote for Trump.
Yes, I mean, he won handily in the popular vote, 75 million to 72.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. Then we move on, fight back, find new ways and all the rest of it. But until you acknowledge that this actually happened, we're not going to be able to move at all.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, Caroline. We're going to take a very quick break and we'll come back with some more questions in a moment. Hello and welcome back.
Given what has just happened in the USA, is the UK in danger of sleepwalking into a future with Nigel Farage and the Reform Party winning a landslide victory at the next election? Sue via Spotify. Thanks, Sue.
Well, I don't think that there's any possibility of Reform winning a landslide.
They've only got 5 seats.
Yes. But what there is a possibility of is, if you look at it from the other side, is many of Keir Starmer's new MPs sitting on very fragile majorities, coming under enormous pressure from reform, from a Tory party with a story to tell after 5 years of whatever Keir Starmer's Labour Party does. And I think the idea that Keir Starmer sitting on a massive majority right now automatically translates to a second term is completely fallacious. And I do think there is a danger of Farage and Kemi Badenoch finding common ground at some point in the future and an arrangement of sorts being made. Well, I mean,
the 2019 majority that Boris Johnson won was delivered by Farage stepping down the Brexit Party candidates. Now, I think this time round, because he's in the Commons, he would say, well, no, the Tories have got to give me and my party Reform, which is second in 100 seats, free run. And I think Kemi Badenoch might be, who knows, at the moment it's not a starter, but a few years down the line, if Starmer's in real trouble, it might be, anything is possible.
Yeah. And I also think that Starmer will get pinched from the other side as well. There is a growing call for people to recognise that we are not looking at dissembling Brexit as a serious option, and we need to. And many of those people making that call are from within the Labour Party.
Yes.
The Labour Party has a very strong, very pro-European wing to it. And they'll be saying, come on, this is mad. If you want growth, if you want this, if you want to challenge all the populist nationalism that's coming out of Farage and Badenoch, you've got to start talking about what does that mean?
Trump's tariffs on the horizon.
Yeah, for sure. People talk about the idea that we're going to be sailing into a free trade agreement with America. Even if we did, and that is,
a big if.
Big if. Even if we did, America at the moment counts for about 10% of imports and exports in the UK.
Yeah, and
versus about 50%.
And the
with Europe.
Angst, the chlorinated chicken.
All of that, the death of agriculture, all of that. We know it's a non-starter. So I think if Keir Starmer wants to put Farage on the back foot and have a solid position to fight him on, then that European conversation is the play. All right. Sue, great question. Thank you. From Morgan in Whitstable, wonderful Whitstable. I've enjoyed your discussions of assisted dying and recognition that it's a very nuanced issue. Now that Kim Leadbeater has published her bill, have your thoughts shifted at all? Matt, have your thoughts shifted at all?
Well, I hate the word journey, but I continue to be on, I still have reservations about this. And reading the bill, I'm afraid they were compounded. One thing that I wasn't aware of, but is in there, is that the bill permits a medical practitioner to initiate the discussion about assisted dying, which makes me nervous. The idea of a doctor saying,
have you thought about this?
Have you thought about dying? The other tweak that I hadn't been aware of was that, as you know, the idea is you get two doctors to sign off and then a judge, which sounds like a pretty robust system. But if the second doctor says no, the legislation enables you to keep going until you find a second doctor that will.
Right.
Which is a considerable change. And then the final thing, which we've mentioned before, is that my concern, as you know, has always been slippery slope. But not just slippery slope in terms of pressure, but on people demanding the right. So this is very narrowly targeted at people who've got a terminal diagnosis within 6 months. But there are groups already that are lobbying to be included. So Sir Nicholas Mostyn, the former judge who's got Parkinson's disease, has been on broadcasting saying, well, hang on, what about us? We demand the right to have assisted dying. And the problem is that what happens in these cases is you have initial legislation which is very carefully safeguarded, and then using the Equality Act or other anti-discriminatory mechanisms, other groups go for judicial review and say, well, hang on, what about us?
Yes.
And I do worry that is now, all of which is to say, the prospects of the bill since we last talked about it have got a little less good, I think. Wes Streeting has come out quite firmly against it. And to my fascination, so has Ed Davey, who's very much associated with social care. But if we are going to cross, as I've always said, if we are going to cross this Rubicon, let us do so with open eyes. That's all.
Yeah, and my views, really, I remember the last time we talked about this, I said that I had greater empathy than I started out with about this sense that it has to be a proper choice.
Yes.
And it's not a choice if you're stood at a cliff edge and someone's got a pole in your back and they're nudging you towards it. If palliative care in this country is properly funded and it's a less traumatic exit for many people who are dying, then that's a proper choice. But if really what you're facing is an agonizing end, I'm still of the very great conviction that having that bottle of medicine next to your bed that will see you off comfortably at a time of your choosing is an improvement on having to fly to Dignitas in Switzerland a month or 2 months ahead of when you'd rather do it.
I think that's quite a good encapsulation of the two positions, really. And it'll be really interesting when the House debates it on November the 29th. That's only the second reading. The committee stage and third will be more interesting. But I wouldn't call it now. I mean, I think public opinion is more on your side than mine. But I think MPs are very uncertain, especially now that Wes Streeting, who's very highly regarded on the Labour benches, has come out so clearly against it.
And by the way, that is how representative democracy works, which is public opinion should be marginal sometimes in these things.
This is a good way to sort it out, which is to have, I really hope, one of the things about a private member's bill that's not great is that the time it's given is quite limited, and also the assistance that is given, in terms of what MPs can look into in terms of other examples and so on is much, much less. But never mind, it's having another debate. It's clearly something about which society is having a sort of I think, and it'd be interesting to see if Parliament does what it's meant to do.
Yeah, Morgan from Whitstable, thank you for your great question. Next question, please.
Starmer is on the horns of a dilemma. The majority want to reverse Brexit and rejoin the EU, correct? But the PM has dug himself into a hole he can't get out of yet. If he doesn't want to renege on his promise to, quote, make Brexit work, why doesn't he put the responsibility and the blame on the people by giving them another referendum? That would give him a legitimate mandate, so he knows what it has to be.
Jennifer. Amen. Praise the Lord. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Jennifer.
From your lips to God's ear.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I increasingly I feel that a second referendum isn't only desirable, but it's inevitable at some point. The tectonic plates are moving so much still.
Oh, so much, yeah.
That anybody who thinks as I remember, and he's changed his tune on it since, but I remember Nick Robinson saying in about 2018, why are we still talking about this? It's done. It's over. Move on. No, not so much.
Not so much.
It is still the issue that is undermining all progress in this country. I mean,
well, first of all, I think consistency is a massively overrated virtue. Yeah. And, the circumstances have changed so dramatically since 2016. And as we were just saying, the economic context is so dangerous for the EU that I think Starmer has every right to say it's time to have another look. I wouldn't call it a second referendum. I'd just call it a referendum.
Yeah.
And, U-turns are possible. I mean, people forget this because it never happened. And if it had happened, God, where the counterfactuals are really, really interesting. Tony Blair made a huge U-turn in 2004 when he agreed, having said absolutely I won't, to have a referendum on the EU constitutional treaty. Now that treaty fell because of referendums elsewhere in the EU.
Yeah.
But, yes, people said, but you said.
Yeah.
And then they get on to thinking, okay, so now we're going to have a vote on that, which would have been actually a very healthy thing, and we'd have avoided leaving the EU.
That's right.
And all that.
Yeah.
But I actually don't. I think Labour has become sort of neurotic about this.
Yeah.
This is clearly not working. And more to the point, the circumstances are changing dynamically and scarily.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be afeared of in offering people a choice.
No, that's right. I mean, the problems. We must be clear to anybody whose heart and soul is invested in this idea that one day this will come to pass. But that's really only the start of the problems, because then you'd have to be very clear that not only were the people behind it, you'd need to be clear that both main parties were supportive of it. And the reason that that's important is that the European Union have a say in all of this.
Yeah, they don't have to take us back. They'd want to.
Yeah, but they know that we've been a basket case for the last 8 years, and they'd want to know that those days were over.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that neither of the main party leaders at the moment is even slightly interested in this, which is depressing to record, but the case. And also, Starmer is very old-fashioned in his fixity. I mean, he's the kind of guy who it'll now be sort of a matter of absolute iron principle that he not give any ground on this, which I find very depressing.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to just keep the pressure up, because this is a government that defines itself by growth, and growth is not going to come, we say it again, until we get back into the single market. Yeah, it just isn't.
I think, ironically, and here's a little bit of wild sort of optimism, ironically, Trump's kind of global destroying tariff may well push us into a corner where it's irresistible.
Well, I think it's the absolutely... I'd like it now, but if it's a couple of years from now when the tariffs start to bite, okay, that'll do.
All right, Jennifer, we're with you 100%. 100%. Great question, thank you. One more quick one.
How do you feel about the 40th anniversary reboot of Band-Aid? Are two Bonos okay in the same way as two Matts? Jacqueline and Leamington Spa.
But this has gone right over my head. What's the two Bonos?
Bono, the well-known Irish singer.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. And his
here so forth. He's going to record, or maybe he already has, who can say, he's going to add his own voice as in 2024.
Oh no, on top of the original one.
Tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. So it'll be the two Bonos. And
oh my God.
But actually there have been so many bloody versions of this single that, it's got Harry.
Is it just going to be him? And
No, it's they're bringing in a bunch of
he's the only one to do it to get
I think he's the I think Bananarama for some reason are being brought back as well. But there's some newbies like Sam Smith and so on.
Brilliant.
But they're also including, because there have been many Band-Aids through the years.
Yeah.
I think they're Harry Styles is being wheeled out.
Is he? Brilliant.
But I think from old tracks, right?
Right, okay.
But for some reason, which I can't quite fathom, a lot of people are furious about all this, right? Yes.
Oh, no.
And I'm not furious if Band-Aid want to re-release the single and it does well and a bit of money goes to Ethiopia or other parts of the world where there's famine. I can't really see the strong argument against, but it is interesting how people can get angry about anything now, isn't it?
The weird thing about that song is that it's no longer about famine in Africa, is it? It's about Christmas time.
It's a Christmas single.
It's a Christmas single
it's a
now,
Christmas
pure
single.
and simple.
It's a Christmas single, and I imagine the part of the fury is that there's, as usual, a battle to get Last Christmas by Wham to the top of the charts, right? And the George Michael's fans will be furious with the two Bonos, right? So I'm unpacking it that way, but I don't know about you, but I can't find. I mean, there's so much to be angry about at the moment and worried about. Band-Aid is the least of my problems at the moment.
Is Bob Geldof still involved?
I believe he's. I mean, I think, as I recall, I think they wound up the company, but I think he's behind, or certainly has a part in all this. I
had a great dinner once with Bob Geldof at Matthew Freud's house. Me and another journalist, a friend of mine, and Bob Geldof. We got summoned to come and have dinner at Matthew Freud's. Remarkable how it's like
amazing,
a James Bond set, and it's like someone told you there's like a courtyard.
Yes.
And I was told, although maybe they were just egging me on, that in the summer the courtyard sinks down and becomes a swimming pool.
I didn't know that.
Anyway, so Matthew was there, There was only 4 or 5 of us there, and I was sat there, had this very entertaining night with Geldof, where it was all about how do we beat Brexit, and all because he was really, if you remember, he was really at the forefront of that. And these incredibly expensive bottles of wine were being corked, and Bob, you couldn't get a word in edgeways, and even if you did, he wasn't listening to a word you said, just holding forth wildly. But I was struck by just what a remarkable person he is, because he was telling us all about his entrepreneurial activities in Africa, where he spends loads of time in Africa building budding businesses in Africa around climate crisis stuff and all of that. I mean, amazing guy.
Did you tell him how much you like In Excess and Michael Hutchins? You've always been an admirer. It's one of the great bands.
I remember Matthew Freud had said he made Sweetcorn, right? And he was going on and on about this Sweetcorn, saying it's the best Sweetcorn you'll ever taste. And it came, and it was definitely Sweetcorn. I know that. I was kind of like, everyone was good. But then, as the more you ate it, I thought, my God, this is special sweet. And I thought, here is a PR genius.
He just can't help himself.
He's in a bowl of bloody Sweetcorn.
He's turned Sweetcorn into magic. So I think the answer, Jacqueline, is that we are very happy for it to go ahead and give it our blessing.
Yeah.
Correct?
Great. 100%.
Okay.
100%. Well, that's all we've got time for.
Yeah.
This week, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it. To channel Bob Geldof, if you're not a subscriber of the New European, give us your fucking money.
Give us your fucking money.
Give us your fucking money now.
God, those were the days, weren't they?
Go to the neweuropean.co.uk/2mats and subscribe. You can do it from just a quid a week. That's nothing. Come and see us live at the Phoenix a week tomorrow.
Can't believe it's just crawling up on us, isn't it?
For an evening with the 2 Mats.
An evening of...
There'll be laughs. There'll be impressions.
There'll be anti-populist rhetoric.
There'll be great political insight.
Oh, yes.
Actually, we've got a free... I'm going to give everybody a free book as well if they come.
Well, there you go.
You know that brilliant book we did, An Uncivil War?
Oh, that's a great... reason enough.
I mean, it's a superb book, and everyone's going to get a free copy if you come. So come along to that.
That's a great bonus.
Ticket link in the show notes. And
have a great Sunday.
Have a great Sunday.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.